One of the basic principles in the martial arts is the yin and the yang, balance and harmony. These ancient samurai warriors, who were probably the most proficient warriors in the history of the world, but they also had a balance to them. They were also artists, they were also poets, they sang and they danced. And what I will say about Dr. Holloway is that he epitomizes the yin and the yang in our modern society. Is he a warrior? Yes, absolutely. He's an incredible warrior. He's competed all over the world with the best people in the world in judo, and he's won. But also, to balance him, he's an artist, a very prolific artist. He's a sculptor, he writes poetry, he is an author of several books, and probably more than anything to me, he's a healer. He very much cares about his patients. And so there's an incredible balance there. Probably the base for him is his warriorness. He approaches life in that way, but he has all of these things that help him to balance himself, which is the principle of the yin and the yang.
To know Dr. Holloway is to admire him. Understanding him, however, is a much more complicated feat, because to understand him is to understand an artist, a published author, an accomplished dermatologist, a chef, a gardener, and a world-class athlete. Oklahoma has a rich history of producing athletes and coaches that master their sport. Names such as Troy Aikman, Mickey Mantle, Matt Hoffman, Barry Switzer, Bill Goldberg, Barry Sanders, and of course, Jim Thorpe. They remind us all of what a fertile ground the state possesses for producing such talent.
We think about the barefoot kids that have run across Oklahoma fields and grass and had their feet in the dirt. You think of little Sam Bradford as a boy, and Mickey Mantle as a boy, and Joel Holloway as a boy, and you think of the boys that are out there right now and the girls that are out there right now riding their horses and running barrels and doing all the things, swimming in the creeks. These are kids. These are Oklahoma kids, and Oklahoma seems to produce a special kind of kid that has a capacity to excel, partly because they're true and they're strong and they are just exactly who they are. The authenticity gives them a strength and an understanding that you just don't get anywhere else.
All of these great competitors dedicated their lives to achieving the highest standard in their sport. And so it is with Dr. Holloway. Few, however, have not only mastered their sport of choice, but also mastered something as demanding as the field of medicine. Even fewer have done something of that magnitude and still found the time and energy to become proficient in many other endeavors at the level of Dr. Holloway.
My name is Dr. Joel Holloway. I started judo in 1960 at Tripler Army Hospital, Honolulu, Hawaii, and obtained my first brown belt during that time.
Judo, or the Gentle Way, was founded in Japan by Jigoro Kano in 1882. While most directly influenced by Jiu-Jitsu, Kano also used elements from many other martial arts to form judo, yet there is no hitting or kicking in the sport. Instead, judo utilizes throwing, choking, arm bars, and wrestling-style maneuvers. Kano developed two central principles for judo: maximum efficiency, minimal effort, and mutual welfare and benefit. To become proficient in judo, Kano required that the focus of the sport be based on efficiency in the execution of each technique. Master Kano became the first Asian member of the International Olympic Committee in 1909, and judo became an official Olympic sport in 1964. Today, judo is categorized as a modern martial art, but
Judo is not a true martial art. Judo is a physical education system and a sport. Now, we use many of the moves that the other martial arts use, but we do them under controlled situations. For example, if I throw an opponent, I do not try to throw him on top of his head and break his neck. We turn him over in the air and land them on their back or their side. And the big difference is one's a sport, the other's to kill you. Now you can do the killing part, but we of course don't do that in sports.
In modern judo, there are two types of competition. The most well-known is shiai, or contest.
Now that's the fighting part of judo. And there's two people on the mat, you have 4 judges and 1 referee. You bow to each other, and the referee will give you the command to step forward. You take 1 step forward, and then he'll say hajime, which means to begin. And you just go at him.
The other is kata, or form. In this version, a team of 2 judokas performs the katas. One judoka, the uki, repeatedly attacks the other known as the tori. The tori would then repel the attacks of the uki, depending on the kata being performed. The uki may be thrown to the ground, choked, or lifted into the air and held. The tori's part is to attempt the technique perfectly, while the uki is to attack, defend, and fall perfectly. The team goes through a particular set of forms, and it is judged on perfection, similar to the judging in gymnastics or diving. The training is to focus on the team working as a unit, both continually striving to improve their form during a technique and improving the flow of the kata between each. The techniques are a combination of offense and defense, while the flow is a balance of beauty and strength.
Katas are forms, and form perfection, actually. Nage no kata is a kata of throwing. Katami no kata, the kata of grappling, fighting on the ground like wrestlers. Kimi no kata, the ancient self-defense kata. Gosen Jitsu, the modern self-defense kata. Judo-Kata, the gentle kata. Those katas were broken down, and very specific steps were used to teach them. And they were preserved so that judo is taught the same basic way all over the world. And then you add flourishes to it, depending on which throw you're doing and why and that sort of stuff. But you have to know the basic first.
Hi, my name is Patrick Burris. I'm an 8th Dan, Hachidan in the sport of judo. I own my own gym. It's called USA Stars. We have one here, Virginia Beach, East St. Louis area. We started this a little over 20 years ago. One of the best dojos in America. We've brought this to, in fact, the last international tournament or national tournament, USA Stars took 3rd as a team. We teach many sports. I teach judo, which is a sport that I have a passion for. I'm a 2-time Olympian. I represented the United States in 3 World Championships, 4 Pan American Games, and I've placed in all the Pan American Games. I was a pre-Olympic champion in 1975. I came to Oklahoma about 1983 to help the sport of judo, actually. I came here to coach Dr. Tripp, and that was when I first met Dr. Holloway. And I was very blessed to meet him because he and I competed in the national championships in kata. And first year we took a 1st and a 2nd. The second year we took a 1st and a 2nd. And it just says a lot about Dr. Holloway, the abilities that he has to take somebody like myself and take a 1st place. And he's numerous times national champion in katas. Once again, I've been very blessed with the people that I've met here in Oklahoma. Judo is a very exciting sport. It's the 2nd most practiced sport in the world, the most practiced martial art in the world.
Ranking structure is divided into 2, Budanshi and Yudanshi. Budanshi ranks are below black belt, and they go backwards, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 1 first-degree brown belt is the highest of the Budanshi. Yudanshi ranks are just the opposite, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each black belt rank is called a Dan, and they're listed as 1, 2, 3, 4. Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, Yodan, Godan, Rokudan, Shishidan, Hachidan, Judan, Gudan. Now, it's exceptionally rare for anybody to make a 10. A simple example When I was promoted to 8th degree, Hachidan, I was the only one in the United States that was promoted.
For the rank of Hachidan, I mean, there may be just a small handful of people in the United States that have achieved that level, and most of them have gotten that through competition. Dr. Holloway received it not only for what he has done in the kata realm of it, but also for those that he's helped in competing. Like he's had Dr. Tripp, you know, he kept him alive in the sport when it wasn't anyone around to help him with it. He's helped Catherine Insler, Amy Ehlenfeld. I mean, there are literally hundreds of young athletes that Dr. Holloway has helped. For him to receive the rank of Hachidan, that's really well overdue. But what he's done for kata, I mean, he's written books. He's brought that aspect of judo to the United States, where most people just wanted to compete. He brought it and made it where it was a cool thing to do. You know, when he and his brother were doing kata, you know, nobody did it. I mean, really, nobody was doing it. But because he and his brother were so good at it, it got the attention of the judo world. And not only did he do so well at it in the United States, but he also was a world champion in it, you know, our first ever. And that was pretty impressive. And I think, you know, because of one of the concepts of being mutually beneficial, that so many people have benefited from Dr. Holloway's knowledge and practice of the sport. Really done some really magnificent things, like keeping the sport alive in Oklahoma. I mean, without Dr. Holloway, judo probably wouldn't be alive here. And none of us, when we start off, like, none of us ever dream of wearing a red and white belt. I mean, it's something you don't even think about. You don't think you're going to live long enough or accomplish enough in the sport to do that. But to reach that rank as a Caucasian is very impressive, because typically judo, like a lot of sports, is very political. And unless you're Asian or Japanese more, you hardly ever receive that rank. And like I said, he's one of the few Caucasians to be on that level. In fact, of any nationality, one of the few in America to have achieved that level. Pretty impressive.
He has been instrumental in raising the level of performance, and that goes for coaching as well. And he's done that outside the state, nationally, as well as inside the state. Plus the kata demonstration, the technical level of the demonstration has been noticeably improved because of his presence and performance.
Dr. Holloway began practicing judo in 1961 while serving in the U.S. Army as a combat medic. It was only a year later he began to actually coach the sport.
There you are. I would work as a physician during the daytime, and then in the evenings and on weekends would teach judo. I taught judo since 1962 because there was no other ranks around to teach it.
His decision to teach the sport so soon in his own career established his MO in the world of judo. As discussed previously, he is recognized across the sport for his efforts in popularizing the kata of judo competition. And because of this, he was inducted into the United States Judo Association Hall of Fame, being the first person ever inducted for proficiency in the katas. In 2008, he was inducted into the United States Martial Arts Hall of Fame. To be inducted, one must be a martial artist who lives, eats, and dreams of the martial arts. And Dr. Holloway does just that. Yet no one is considered a true master of their sport until they coach. Not only has Dr. Holloway earned over 30 national medals himself, but he has also been sensei to many other world-recognized judokas. His students, which include Patrick Burris, Tom Layton, Robert Okada, Sandy Booker, and many more, have collectively earned over 40 national and international medals under his tutelage.
I think I first realized how accomplished he was as I watched people learn from him. I mean, I first saw his ability as a coach to take someone who has never done anything like this and get their confidence up and get their skill level up so that they could compete. And my sister did this, and that's the first thing I realized was that he was an outstanding coach. I mean, it's one thing to know how to do something, but it's another skill set to be able to transfer that into a teaching ability. And then as the competitions went on, everything just went from one level to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And I would just hear the awards keep getting racked up, and then I would see pictures. And I think, as much as anything, the thing I'm impressed about is just the consistency and the high degree of intention that is in this sport. It's a very intentional sport. It's very deliberate. It's very methodical, and it's very disciplined. I think it creates a certain kind of clarity of mind that is a valuable thing. So that continued on and on and on, and then there's the trip to Australia that I heard about.
On October the 1st, 1994, more than 23,000 like-minded people took part in a unique 13-day festival of sport. It was one of the largest multi-sports events ever held in the world. The occasion was the 1994 World Masters Games. The place, Brisbane, Australia. Competitors from 72 countries took part in the Brisbane Games. They contested 30 sports at 103 venues. The event was covered by 300 accredited journalists and photographers. The concept of World Masters Games is unique in that it enables competition across a range of sports at one time. It's unique also in its broad appeal to sportsmen and women as young as 25 to a crowd-appealing 101 years of age.
Her way into the Guinness Book of Records.
In 1994, Dr. Holloway and his kata partner Ralph Sexton journeyed to Brisbane, Australia to compete on the world stage. It was here where Dr. Holloway solidified his standing in judo. Competing against a wide array of judokas from over 70 countries, Dr. Holloway and his partner demonstrated that not only were they able to compete against the best, but proved that they were in fact the best themselves.
I broached the subject with him one day. I said, the World Masters Championships in Canberra, Australia were coming up. I said, would you be interested in going to that? So we got very serious and put together a workout schedule, and it took more than a year to get ready for it. And we went to Australia for the World Masters Games 1994, and we won.
They competed in Katami no Kata, Goshin Jitsu, and Kimi no Kata, during the latter of which the two used metal weapons to the shock of the audience. Like most things Dr. Holloway does, this was done as a show to the judges the seriousness in which he took the sport. After winning 1 silver and 2 gold medals, and due to the difficult indices of the katas performed, they were named the overall World Grand Kata Champions. They were the first in the history of not only Oklahoma or the US, but the world to win the overall Grand Champion in Judo-Kata. After over 30 years into his judo career, Dr. Holloway had proven that he was the best in the world at the kata of judo.
When we were in Canberra, Australia, and we found out that 2 of the contestants had set up a video cameras. They had noticed us the first day of the competition and videoed us in order to study us. And they came over and asked some questions about how we accomplished certain things. And he was very generous in sharing knowledge to his competitor.
Entire books could be written about not only Dr. Holloway's achievements in the sports of judo, but also his accomplishments in dermatology, art, literature, and poetry.
He has shown to me the more exquisite, gentler side of a very educated and knowledgeable person. He has taken the time, when those opportunities allowed, to share with me things about birds, to show me art in the explaining of the biological nature of birds. He has showed me in some of the books that he has, that he knew that I would have a deep appreciation for the pen and ink of the birds. Just the things that Dr. Holloway has imparted to me as a human being to the depths I know I would not have ever known had I not met Dr. Holloway.
I met Dr. Holloway about 35 or 40 years ago. It's difficult to think of just one thing I could talk about Dr. Holloway doing. I know when my wife and I have gone out to visit Dr. Holloway and Dr. Smith before, when we left, we said, what in the world do we do with our spare time? Dr. Holloway is so accomplished. It's just amazing. His entire life is a storybook.
Yet viewing his accomplishments in the sport, one can see how he applies his mind and his body to any task he seeks out.
He's very, very agile. He was always quick to think and slow to speak, and his handshake was firm but yet gentle.
He has proven himself time and again to be a man of determination, competitiveness, and compassion, and is a shining example of what any true athlete should aspire to. Obviously, the discipline it takes to master something as regulated and technical as the katas proves this. But also one must take into account the amount of time he has spent on others as a sensei, a doctor, and a friend.
I've learned from Dr. Holloway a lot of how to approach life. He approaches life head-on, 100%. Everyone knows people who know a little bit about everything. Dr. Holloway knows a lot about everything. I just appreciate the fact that I can be around him some.
To be a master of a sport is a monumental feat, but to do so while helping others to become the same makes a legend.